All right, we're talking with comedian Mark Riley here. Mark Riley, a comedian in the New England area for a long time now, also a former referee. Mark, you reffed everything from the NHL to high school, right, when it came to hockey?
Yeah, I was unfortunately only an employee for the NHL for a week. But, I guess I made some bad calls. They must have been telephone calls. It was in the summer. But, yeah, so I've done everything from pro all the way down to mites.
Wow, that's amazing. And you're a part of a podcast, too, the Chirping Zebras Podcast. It's you and is it Geno Binda, who is also
yes.
He's from a family of referees, too, right?
Yeah, his dad is a well-known referee in the hockey community, and Geno Binda Jr., who is my partner on the podcast, he started reffing when he was like 9, and it was in his blood, so he had no choice, and he did play. He played through college. He played at Salve Regina, and then started his career in college and pro hockey. He's reffed everything from the AHL down too as well, and he probably should be in the NHL as well, but we're both American, so.
Okay, yeah. Is the hockey referee the most abused referee in all of sports?
I would probably say yeah, only because it's kind of been the culture of the sport. I mean, the trash talking and between players and the coaches to the referees, it's kind of unfortunately been the culture, and it's been fine up until recently. And you have coaches and even parents now, physically attacking the referees, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, and it's hard enough to get people, especially young people, to volunteer, basically, because that's what they're doing most of the time, to do that. There was that incident, or was that Seattle, a few weeks ago, where a parent got out on the ice and there were 2 teenagers refereeing the game and pushed both of them down on the ice and injured one of them. And more recently, there was a thing in Northborough where a parent went out and started a fight with a coach. And then a story last week, and let me know if this has ever happened to you. There was a soccer referee in Germany who was reffing a game with like 5 to 7-year-olds, and one of the young children came up and bit him in the junk.
Oh my God!
I know, right? That's never happened to you, has it, Mark?
No, not on. Luckily in hockey we wear a protective cup. So
right.
Even if someone tried to do that, they'd probably break a tooth. But I've never had a player. I mean, in the heat of the moment. Like in pro hockey, I had a couple players kind of snap about a call and kind of hit me with a little tap with a cross check, and they were, quickly gassed out of the game. But I've never had a parent or a coach try to, attack me physically. That situation in Seattle was crazy.
Yeah.
Just came out, and here's the thing: that particular one really was bothersome because the 2 kids were refereeing the game correctly. It wasn't as if they were, they had just, not that it, allows anyone to abuse someone if they mess up calls, but those 2 kids were doing a great job. They had just had a scrum. They talked to the coaches, and next thing you know, this parent comes out and bulldozes them. And unfortunately, they're young officials. They're not aware. Not that you should expect that, but it's one of those things where I doubt that parent would try it had there been, adults refereeing that game.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, like Geno and I joked on the podcast that if they tried that, with us 2 out there, it would have ended poorly for that parent. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I remember when people would run out onto the ice, the refs, so if not the players, the refs would totally take them out, and they're not afraid to do that.
The famous game at the Boston Garden. Bill McCreary was the referee, and a fan jumped out in the ice to go, running after him. And Ron Asseltine, known as the Bear, he absolutely bundled the guy into the boards. And it was one of the greatest checks ever thrown at the Garden, I think.
Yeah.
We take that seriously for sure.
Yeah. And you've actually gotten into a fight with coaches, haven't you?
Well, not physically. I mean, we've had plenty of verbal altercations over the years, especially in pro hockey, because it's, a little bit more intense. Sometimes in college, although, they're representing a school, so usually they stay within the boundaries of, acceptability. But I almost fought a player once in Richmond, Virginia, the captain. He just wouldn't stop whining and whatnot, and I finally said to him, you know what, let me take my shirt off, we'll go to center ice, I'll end my career, and I'll knock you out in front of all your fans.
Oh, my God.
And, he declined, and and I might have threatened a college coach once, but that was when I was in my anger phase right after the NHL happened, and that following season. I was a little terse with the business of refereeing, so but I'll deny that.
What year was that in Richmond? Because I went to a lot of Richmond Renegades games in the 90s. Was that around that time?
That would have been late 90s, early 2000s is when I was down in the Coast League.
Oh, okay.
And Richmond Renegades. That's I was there a lot because I was living in Raleigh at the time. The league had an apartment in Raleigh, and so I was in Richmond a lot. I had actually set the penalty minute for the league with 304 minutes in one game. Hampton Roads versus Richmond. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Hampton
Talk
Roads.
About chaotic.
Yeah.
Oh.
They were the arch rivals of the Renegades. There was always trouble, even in the stands. There was, because they'd bus in their fans like a lot of places do, and there was fights in the stands, and yeah, those were crazy times.
It was John Brophy was the coach of Hampton, and Brophy was quite the player in the American League. I think he holds the penalty minute record of all time, and he was a little feisty, and his team played the same way. So they were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun to deal with for sure.
So when I was down there, I would fill in for the PA announcer in some games. And I remember they had this player named Trevor Sen. I don't know if you ever...
Oh, yeah.
You remember him?
Yeah, I remember Trevor.
Yeah, he was quite the enforcer. So he had been suspended for like 2 weeks or something like that. And it was his first game back in the Richmond Coliseum. And so 5 seconds in... the gloves come off and he just starts pummeling someone and he's out for the rest of the game. The rest of the game. Yeah. I was just like crazy. And
that checks out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was a badass. And then what did you think about in the Four Nations face-off? About that first game with Canada and the U.S. and it was, 3 fights in 9 seconds? You ever experience anything like that?
Oh, yeah. I've had plenty of times where the puck drops and next thing you know, you got 1 or 2 fights going on. I thought that Four Nations was great. Yeah. And I think that, those 3 fights really showed how much pride the players take in playing for their country. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun to watch. I don't know if they can do it all the time because of injuries and, the whole thing. But, next year the Olympics will happen and the NHL is back in the Olympics, best on best, and that's going to be incredible. That's just going to be a great tournament.
Well, you can listen to Mark and Geno on his podcast, Chirping Zebras. Tons of great stories, tons of great guests. But these days, not only are you a comedian, but you're also a teacher. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
I won't mention the school or anything.
Well, I'm not legally allowed, no. I've been teaching for a long time. I'm part-time this year because the podcast has taken off, and comedy is full-time anyway. So my teaching days might be numbered, but I've loved it over the years. The kids have given me plenty of material, and and I teach them. If nothing else, they learn real-world skills and sarcasm.
Right. Those are valuable skills, man. Sarcasm, that's a valuable skill, man. I've made a living off of it. I think so.
And March Madness is coming up, and I do the March Madness brackets with the kids, and they all throw in $20 for the prize.
What?
And which is a pound of licorice. I make a killing, but
oh, okay, it's licorice. Okay.
Yeah, no, I give them licorice, and I keep the rest of the money.
Oh, very nice.
It works out perfect for everyone.
Oh, man.
I just tell them, tell your parents it's for a field trip.
Yeah.
And it works out well.
Your experience reffing hockey games, that must have helped you with skills in dealing with a classroom, with conflicts and listening to people complain and things like that.
Oh yeah, refereeing was a great foundation for a lot of things, especially comedy. When you're out there, you have to get the last word in. At least I do. Being from Boston, we have to. And so it was a great training ground because you're getting chirped all the time, and you never want to let the player or the coach get the better of you in the chirp war. So it was a good training ground to be quick on your feet, and I think that's something I've carried over into my stand-up. I like to pride myself in no show that I do is the same, right? Because I'm always interacting along with doing material, and I try to change things up. So if you see me more than once, you're not going to see the exact same show and all the same material, because not only is that boring for the people in the audience, but it gets boring for me. I know I like to switch things up because after a while I'm like, all right, I've done the Summer Olympic stuff for a while. I'm going to put that to rest for a little bit and then, talk about whatever's going on.
You got a show coming up here in Webster, Samuel Slater's restaurant down there by the lake. That's coming up on the 21st of this month. And you've done shows there before, right?
I have. I've been there before, and I love going down there. It's at the Indian Ranch, which I can't believe they haven't forced them to change the name to the Indigenous People Ranch yet. But maybe that's coming. You don't know. But I had a blast. Last time I was down there, it was cool because there's a bunch of trailers. It's basically a trailer park, right?
Well, it's a campground. It's a seasonal campground. Yeah.
All right, we'll go with campground. That euphemism works for me. And but the names of some of these trailers, some of them are cool. Like they're called the Trailblazer or the King's View. But some of them, I saw one that was called the Prowler. And I don't think I'm getting in that one. Might as well park a white van there and say free candy. I mean, come on. Who's camping in that thing?
Oh, my God. They're going to love you, man, this time around.
I can't wait to get down there. I had a blast the last time I was there. And, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm with a couple of great guys, too. On that show, Chris D., who is, absolutely hilarious. He's a Greek kid and does a lot of stuff on, his dad and growing up and all that stuff. And so he's going to be on the show along with my good friend Steve Starfo out of New Hampshire. And so it's going to be an absolute blast. Everyone should come out.
Nice. That's Samuel Slater's restaurant at the at Indian Ranch. That's coming up on the 21st. I'd like to see a show with you and Orlando Baxter because he spent 10 years as a teacher here in Worcester. And I don't know if you're familiar with Jimmy Cash, the janitor with Stamina. He's been a custodian. Yeah, he's been a custodian here in the Worcester Public Schools for like over 20 years. I think between the three of you, there'll be some good stories about teaching kids.
I've worked with both of them guys. They're both awesome, both super funny. It's tough because all three of us usually headline, so it's tough to get all three of us on the same show, unless it's a special event or something. But I love working with those guys. They're just fantastic.
All right, Mark Riley, comedian. He's going to be at Samuel Slater's restaurant, Indian Ranch, March 21st. You can also hear him and his co-host Geno on the Chirping Zebras podcast. You can listen to that wherever you listen to podcasts. Great stories. A couple of hockey referees who have reffed at every level, from NHL on down to mites. You said, Mark, right? To mites, and some great stories and great guests.
We've done it all. We have a couple of huge guests coming up. Chris Nyland is joining us this week. We're going to tape with Knuckles, and really excited about that. Not only, obviously, he played in the NHL, but he was a coach for the Chesapeake Icebreakers in the Coast League when I was down there. So we had some great interaction. So there's going to be some great stories in that episode. And then we're following him up with Kerry Frazier, a longtime NHL referee who I think caused the ozone problem back in the 80s with how much Aquanet he used
my
keep
God.
his hair in place. But, yeah, we got a couple of big guests coming up, and we got some stuff planned for the spring, and you can find all the information on chirpingzebras.com.
All right. Hey, Mark Riley, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it. Looking forward to see you at Samuel Slater's restaurant.